Are we live? We are live.
Good morning,
Jennifer
Jesse.
Lacey.
How are
What's
you?
going on? I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. Had a trip earlier this week and then been kind of just catching up the rest of the week. So
Yeah, awesome. Well, look at this. We got some super
I
early
know we have
rise.
some like early people. Good morning, Amy.
Miss Amy. Good morning, Amy. And we got the chief marketeer, Steve Martin. Says he's calling her out, overachiever. I love it.
Yes.
So we got some fun going on today, Jen. We're going to be talking about being your best advocate.
Yeah, I don't this one I don't like because you're going to ask me questions that I have to get. I have to like get thinking about stuff and sharing stuff, and even though I'll do it, it doesn't feel so great sometimes.
But you're doing it for the group, for the tribe, because I know last session you got extra vulnerable and it impacted a lot of people. Yeah.
Yes, it did. And so that doesn't mean I'm not going to ask you questions too. So don't think you have a pass.
You know me, come on with it. I'm happy to do it. And so, folks, if you're out there, let us know in the comments where you at, what you put in your coffee, so we can shout you out. We got Miss Megan coming in. Man, she's up early. Look, she's
up early. I know, just for us. Thank you, Megan.
We got Mr. Jim. What's up, Jim? James Gable, the uncommon communicator.
Yes.
Troublemaker.
Miss Laura.
What's up, sister?
Good morning.
Man, we got some people up and early today. And so, folks, little bit of housekeeping. If you're on the LinkedIn, this is a StreamYard LinkedIn thing. Your comments may or may not make it to the feed where we can flash it up like this. And if you want that to happen, you can go to YouTube, go to the No BS with Jen and Jess YouTube channel, and all your comments will make it through. Not sure why that happens. It's just what happens. But you don't have to stay where you're at, and we'll just go back and interact and respond to your comments after the live stream, because it all will live on LinkedIn. So that's
an Android thing, I think, right?
It isn't. Yeah, I think we've isolated it and figured out if you're watching and viewing from your Android phone and commenting, it doesn't make it through until after the end. That's what we think. I mean, no, not too sure exactly what it is. But these folks are clearly coming in from wherever the right spot.
Yes.
Steve's coming in from Connecticut.
Yes. Let me talk. Can I do blue hearts real fast too?
Also? Yes, please.
Okay. And so Steve mentioned it. So and Jesse put an amazing thread on the bottom. But if you are a first-time listener, or even the first time where you're kind of going to get out of your comfort zone and type some messages into the comments, if you would please drop a blue heart. Even if you're not sure if you're going to be super engaged in the conversation, a blue heart just signifies a couple things to our tribe. Number one is that you're there, and we want to make sure as soon as we know you're there, we want to acknowledge you, we want to connect with you, and then if you have content, we want to make sure our people are engaged with it. And so the blue heart allows our people, it signals them to kind of connect with you and make sure that in the background that you have some support back there.
Yes, amen. And so we got Mr. Ernest, my brother. What's up, Ernest?
Morning.
Noah, what's up? He says, "What's up, gang?" Noah, I posted a thing about my fishing trip this week, and he zinged me, man. He's always got good ones. Y'all got to go check that out. Amy says she's on her laptop, and she's also having issues with her comments. And she says she can't see all the comments from everyone else, and that's
another one.
That's a different
because of how you're viewing us. So I know I have it on my LinkedIn thread, and Jesse has it also posted on his. So depending on how you join, if you join from my feed, you will only see comments that people make on my feed.
Yep.
If you join it from Jesse's, you will only see comments that are made from that one. So again, it's weird, but that is how it's kind of how you join as well. YouTube, I feel like the YouTube one.
YouTube's everybody goes straight.
Yeah, there. If you just go to the No BS one, I think that way allows for most of them. So anyway, lots of jankiness.
Yeah. But we're all here, and we're all going to have a shared experience,
yes,
like we always do. We're going to be talking about being your best advocate. Should we like give some background about that, or should we talk about the giveaway first?
Okay, well, first, before we kick it off, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that we lost one of our friends this week. We lost an industry leader, someone that has been out there and very vocal and very much an advocate for himself. And so Armando, he unexpectedly passed away this week, and so we just want to acknowledge how much he meant to us. And again, this topic ties directly to him because he was starting to figure a lot of that stuff out. And so I just want to acknowledge his impact on my life personally, but also just, I know he touched a lot of lives. And so we just want to just make the note that he is going to be greatly missed.
Yes. And I know a lot of people, there's a lot of caring people that want to help in some manner. His wife and his 4 daughters are here surviving them. They're in Oklahoma, processing all the things that need to be done. And they have committed to giving more details in the next week or so about this memorial service in DFW area. And his friend Eric, a family friend, is working on putting some kind of thing together so that people can contribute if they choose to do so. And when that information comes up, we'll do our due diligence in letting people know.
Yes.
And I mean, in my head, celebration of life, right? We're all here. Like you said, he contributed and touched a lot of lives, and we all have the same capacity. And how about let's use his departure as a motivator to continue the energy and the message that he brought to us. So
absolutely
not the greatest news, but it's part of life. And here we are.
Yes.
So, look, we got Miss Angel, Curious Idealist. She says,
good morning, Angel.
Yeah, thank you. And she said, good morning. Happy Super Saturday. And so with that, where did
this topic come from?
We had 2 conversations. We had a part 1 and a part 2 about bringing your vision to life. And at the end of the second one, and especially in the after party, which you guys, we'd love to hear from you in the after party. It's already set up. The conversation felt like it was like I'll say it this way. I feel like people have a vision for themselves, but the gap is their intensity in terms of how they advocate for themselves. And right, like there was a lot of conversation about bravery. There was a lot of conversation about courage and these sorts of things. And it was interesting because it felt like when you see people do it, we interpret it as bravery and courage. But like for me, I'm like, yeah, but you're not doing it. You got your foot on the brake. What is that? And so anyways, that's kind of where you and I had our debrief as usual. And then it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do? We got to talk about this because it's clearly my takeaway was, yes, we have this understanding about that we do have a vision and we are defining success for ourselves as individuals and human beings. And there's this thing that keeps us from making it happen. And it's being your best advocate. What do you think, Jen?
I completely agree. And again, we talk about vulnerability a lot, and I think they're tied together. I think sometimes to be our best advocate, it does take us having to lean into some of that vulnerability because sometimes some of those conversations can go 2 different ways. And so our fear of like, but what if it does this, or what if this happens, keeps us from really like making progress and doing something to be able to help us grow because of the chance of something going not the way that we think it should.
Yeah. So look, we got Miss Stephanie Reichman. Good morning. She's coming in from Vegas. It's early up that way. Thank you, sister.
Yes.
And so, folks, again, we'd love to hear your thoughts and your comments on this. I'm going to pose a question that I had in the original post. And so the question is this: on a scale of 1 to 10, all you beautiful people in the Omniverse, what is your self-advocate score? Like, if you had to rate yourself honest, and there's no judgment here. We're going to have a lot of learning. One of the Ernest had commented on the earlier post. He gave himself like a 6, which was interesting to me. Like, okay, like, why? And I asked, like, what's the risk of getting a higher score? And for him, there were some real risks that he was concerned about. And so I just want to be extra clear with people. This is not a what's wrong with you? You have limiting beliefs. You got to let them go and all that rah bullshit. This is like, let's just really understand it. For reason number one is so that we can all learn and discover that we're not alone. Reason number two, so that we can start easing our foot off the brake. What do you think, Jen?
Yes, 100%. And I'm going to go to the comments because I love deflecting. But I love, like, again, if some of you are out there and you see social media, like, your brain is like, Megan is like out there and she is living her best life, but her self score is -3.
Who I never like. Thank you, Jen. Folks out there, y'all know Megan. You've seen the amazing content she's putting out there in service to others.
Yes.
And she's giving herself a -3. Who else thinks that's like, whoa, that is not at all right?
But again, we've talked about this on just how we're serving others and how they perceive it versus like ourselves. And right now, and I can relate to Megan 1000%, but is even if we're out there and we're advocating for other people and we're serving other people, are we doing what's inside of our heart? Are we leaning into the things that we know that looks great on the outside, but I also know there's a lot of things that I have had my foot on the brakes for that nobody else knows. Nobody else knows because they're mine. And so sometimes we're out there and we're doing stuff and we're visible and we are advocating and we are doing things for other people. And that is amazing. And we talk about that a lot on just how are we serving other people. But we a lot of times forget on how are we advocating and serving ourselves.
Yes, oh my God, there's so much. Okay, I'm gonna stay in the comments because I don't want to go way.
Yes.
Angel says 2-ish, which again, that kind of surprised me, right? Mm-hmm. Maria just got a promotion. She's at a 3, and it's amazing because she was a 2, and I got to spend time with her on screen where she was advocating for her
doing something scary because it was like the first time. That's advocating.
Yes. Amy says my self-advocate score is currently a 3, working on improving it. It's been a combination of I love this. So Amy, thank you so much for like explaining why. And I think Megan also did the same thing. It's been a combination of factors. Our upbringing, right? How was I raised? Previous experiences, lack of feeling invested in, and so forth, right? And what I want to pick on later on is this. I like the phrase she used was lack of feeling invested in. Mm-hmm. That's an external. I'm interpreting that as they didn't invest in me. Mm-hmm. So what I want to go to at some point today is why would anybody invest in me if I'm not investing in me? Mm-hmm. All right. But we'll come back to that. Yes. So Amy, thank you, sister. Steve Martin leading the pack with a 9.26483. He's rounded up because his score was a little bit lower. Megan, I think this is a real one for everybody else. It's the difference between advocating for others and advocating for myself. So let's talk about that, Jen. What is do you have a similar experience in that it's much easier for you to shine the light and advocate for others than it is for you?
100%. You know that. So you're teeing me up right now. I appreciate that. Thanks. But no, it is. And in my mind, there's a big gap of advocating for others. There's a big gap for serving others. So it's easy for me, so easy to spend my time and my efforts to make sure other people know how valued they are, make sure other people know that, the thing that I see the things they're doing. And it's so easy to get caught up in that because there's such a gap. Like that's my goal, is to find those gaps and help bridge some of those gaps and those divides. And so because of that, it's so easy to just live in that world, because I know I'm doing good things. I know, I feel it inside of me. I know I'm doing good things for other people. It's also easy to get lost in that because it's positive. It's positive things. And so I can do those things, and everybody around me can see and acknowledge and recognize and jump onto that. And I use the analogy a lot, the light, but when I am shining a light on other people, it's so easy for people to focus on the light. And we sometimes forget that even when we're shining that light on people, there's still reflections that come back to us. And we're just like, we're trying to, deflect them and not lean into that as well. And I think you've helped me with what I guess the indecision for me is yes. And if I am advocating for myself, how much more can I advocate for them?
Yeah. Yes. So I think Amy summarized it, right? Similarly to what you just described, is I can advocate the F out of better conditions for X, opportunities for Y, promotions for Z. Again, that's all external. And so you and I had a conversation then before we went live about armoring up.
Yes.
Yes. And based on what you just described about shining the light on people, can you give the folks a little perspective on where we were on that armoring up thing?
Yeah.
Where you are specifically with that type of stuff.
Yes. So I'm currently doing a study action team on Brene Brown's Dare to Lead. If you haven't read it, it's amazing. And so I will pull in some nuggets from that just because it's really fresh in my brain. But there's a question that we talked about on when do you armor up? What causes you to armor up? And so that got into but it also made me think that armoring, it has two different definitions. And it's easy for us to go, I'm putting my armor on to go into battle, to like, I am ready and I am going to fight and I am going to be the advocate and the savior. That's armoring. It is. But there's also that part where we armor up to protect ourselves. And, again, armor is there to protect, but how much is it keeping inside because we have these walls around us? And I think as I was kind of talking through and having conversations around that topic, it led right into our conversation around advocating, is that armor sometimes we use to protect ourselves, and it doesn't allow our real vulnerable, hurting selves to come out. Yes, it can help other people. Yes, we can go and we can be saviors and we can do martyrdom and all that stuff. That's great. But are we using it to keep things inside instead of using it as an opportunity to be able to, again, be stronger, learn more, grow, evolve, progress? Like, those are all things that happen. And sometimes we can't do that if we have this big wall of protection around us.
So Maria says, hey, there's a difference between my weapons and my shields. And that's what I'm hearing, right? Like, there's one thing, but here's what I heard. I put on a suit so I can go to battle. I can go. And the other thing is I'm going to protect myself and stay here and avoid the battle.
I think, but when you think, what is the purpose of armor? Well, even when you go to battle, what's the purpose of armor? Is it a weapon or is it protection?
I think I'm going to say this just to be fun. I see it as a weapon, because if I'm going to battle, the longer my limbs are attached to me, the more I can attack. And so if I'm not wearing protective gear, I'm not going to be able to fight or attack.
Right.
Now, hiding behind the corner, right? I'm not at risk. And even worse, I mean, for me, it's just that. It's like, I'm not even going onto the field of battle. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's the delineation.
Yeah, because that's a great connection, Jesse, because the visibility. If I've got my shield and I've got my armor and my helmet, and you see that, you're like, oh, she's ready to go. Like she's ready to fight. But if I've never stepped onto the field of battle, I've never utilized what that is meant to utilize, then it is being used to protect myself and to keep me safe. And that's it. That is the only purpose it has.
Yes, 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 yes. So, oh man, this is going to be good. So Megan says, advocating for others is safer than advocating for myself. Advocating for myself requires vulnerability and opening myself up to possible rejection.
Yes.
And so don't we do something that helps people with vulnerability, Jen?
We do. I mean, we have a couple things, but yes, but we do. So our emotional bungee jumpers is one of those things that helps people, one, just be in a space where it's safe to be vulnerable. And I think that's important. I think it's important to say, we're not saying right now, okay, you suck. You're not being an advocate for yourself. Just go out there and just do it. And you know what? We'll be here behind you cheering you on. Like, that's not what we're saying, because we understand you and I work in an industry that sometimes vulnerability is not, it's scary, and there's not a lot of safe spaces. And so our exercise allows people to come into a safe space and practice being vulnerable, practice listening, practice being able to connect with other human beings, and really being in a space to understand how to engage with them, how to ask questions, how to receive feedback, stuff like that. Like, that is a space that we've intentionally created that is not a scary space. Well, it is for people that don't like to be vulnerable, but they learn really quick.
Yeah. So we could get the reps in. And then the other part of that is the cultivation crew.
Yes.
Where we're specifically working on some skills. And right now we're actually wrapping up session round 3 for facilitation for connection. Mm-hmm. And we have another randomizer award thing at the end of today's show. Yes. So folks, if you're interested and want to get a free seat to the next session, which mm-hmm. is, I think it's next Friday.
It is.
Drop the word facilitation in the chat. You can work it into a sentence, doesn't matter. Put the word in there, and that'll get your name put in the hopper. And at the end of at the top of the hour here, we'll do the randomizer and announce it. Amy Campbell won the last one. And she's already a member, so she gets to gift that to somebody. And today we want to gift it away to add another person to come check it out, because we're going to be watching videos of people.
We are practicing facilitation skills, which is, yep. I mean, and again, Jesse, just to give them a little more context. So right now we're focusing on facilitation. What does that look like for, like, when you're utilizing facilitation? How do you learn? What are some tidbits and some tricks to be able to be a better facilitator? And then we also have 3 other big sections. So we're finishing this one up. The next one is storytelling, which is huge. So how can we get better at storytelling? Then it's giving and receiving feedback, which is another big thing. And then the last one is self-reflection. So those are all they're leadership skills. And they're skills that we know that people know and see and recognize, but they just don't get the practice, or they don't get to have the conversations around it to know, how can I grow these skills? And we are creating a space for that.
Yes. And I am a firm believer that all of that stuff that you just described, the facilitation, the storytelling, the reflection, and the feedback, are all components and elements that are connected that will help us become a better advocate for ourselves.
100%. I'm doing way better now than I was before we started. So yes.
Yep. And so we were talking about Amy's being like poetic over here. She said the armor serves dual purpose.
It does.
And you see the spelling, the wittiness there.
Yes.
And so, I mean, we got some high scores here, and I want to come back to the high scores, but not just yet, right? Because we're talking about blinding people, like that's the challenge I put on your table, right, Jen? Mm-hmm. You were talking about it, and you highlight the hell out of everybody. But are you flashing the bright light in everybody's eyes so that you don't have to be on the stage? You remember that?
I did, and it reminds me of, I don't know how many of you have seen the musical or the movie Chicago,
Oh yeah.
but Richard Gere, when he's in there and it's that he's doing the dancing and he's like, he's got the smoke in the mirrors and he's like, you just got to do this enough to where if you get them to look over here, then they can like that, if you have it, that one clip, it absolutely reminds me of exactly what Jesse called me out on.
Oh, the razzle dazzle.
Yes, that part. So it is. But I mean, it's not just Jennifer does this, like our industry does this. Like, okay, let's highlight our positives and don't talk about our negatives. Let's talk about our successes, but don't talk about lessons learned. I mean, it's one of those things that like, let's just do this. Let's focus on this and not let them look at this. And I think the more our conversations are really encouraging, let's lean into these because there's positives in both places. And we can learn and we can grow and it can help others not make the same mistakes.
100%. So, all right, you better be ready because I'm coming at you, girl. So, Curious Idealist, Miss Angel says, I've noticed I try to compensate for my lack of self-advocacy by doing more for others, leading to them advocating for me instead. Okay. Miss Stephanie says, I'd say maybe a 6. She's giving herself a 6. But I do certainly often rethink and stress about it. Yeah.
Yep.
Maria says, I was born an 8 or so, and it was beat down. So, Jennifer Lacey, in terms of you being an advocate or whatever rating you are on advocating for Jennifer Lacey, why the hell are you not a 25 million?
I think this is so hard. Well, part of it is, and just this, and I have to own. So when we started having conversations, probably 3 years ago, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But when we started having conversations, really early on, like I was a self-proclaimed imposter. Like I would own that I work in an industry that I don't have a degree in and that I don't go out and build things. Mm-hmm. And so I was self-proclaimed. Like I was like, I mean, I would lead with that. I would lead with, well, but I don't do this. And it was my armor, absolutely. And it kind of gave me an excuse or gave me an out for things that maybe I didn't feel very strong, like I was strong at, or that I had, that I could do, or that I'd done it, but I don't know. It was an out. It gave me an out, and I wore that. Like I was able to use that to justify, like that why I shouldn't be celebrating things that I was doing. Mm. And again, we started talking, and I think for me, it wasn't all of a sudden I went and got all this new education, or I went and got all this new experience now that Jesse and I had been doing stuff. It was, I was allowing those things that I was really strong at, those superpowers, those things that I could do that other people couldn't do. I'd allowed those to then be what I led with. And then I realized, well, crap, all of those things were because of my experience. And all of those things were because I was in the industry. And all of those things were because I not only put myself in situations, but I asked questions and I learned where other people stopped. And other people just let their situation be what it is. I was like, no, I want to know more, more, more. And it allowed me to then be in the front and have knowledge and understanding of things that other people didn't have. Yep. And like that shift, like it took, and it wasn't someone beating me down. Like, you don't know. It wasn't, it was completely self-inflicted because I wore it as it allowed me to have it out. And yep. I think what I've learned over the last 3 years is, do I need an out? Like I had to like, do you need to be able to justify? Do you need to be able to have an excuse so that when someone comes at you and attacks you and points their finger at you, you can go, oh yeah, but. And I think what I've learned is I don't. Mm-hmm. I can own the things that I'm amazing at. And if there's something I don't know, I can be, you know what, you're right, but I will find out. Or you're right, but I know the person that you need to talk to. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that to me has been how I've gone, where it may appear that I'm at 20, but like where I was lower early on. And again, as I've been able to kind of own some of that now, again, it doesn't change that I would rather advocate for other people, but it also allows me to go, but here's how I can advocate for them better.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing all of that, Jen, because I'm sure, I know I've had similar experiences, right? Where I'm just a plumber, right? And hell, even to date, I put a hell of a lot of energy into helping people think I'm a dummy, right? Because I want to minimize expectations as much as I possibly can. And so we're all in this situation where it's uncomfortable. Craig shares a beautiful point. What's up, Mr. Craig, coming in from Canada? Says there's this thing called pruning that stays with us from when we were kids, kind of like when we did some really great things, but we were told not to get a big head, right? 100%. I have a chapter in my book that talks about that, right? Anyways, you can go check that out. But here's the problem that I see is, or maybe not the problem. Here's this was shout out to you, Maria. And I'm not changing the word, except that I think I see it directly as an opportunity. The opportunity is this. Is when I begin advocating for myself, and I'm going to make it super actionable, super like button pushy, tactical here. For a very, very long time, I'll say up until the last 5 years, I 100% expected my boss, the person I reported to be my advocate.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And then I would get frustrated and irritated because I didn't have the parades or the promotions or the raise. I mean, granted, I had a lot of promotions and a lot of huge, huge opportunities, but that's because I was lucky that I had some amazing leaders. Not everybody has that. And so managers are like incentivized to throttle back the amount of advocating they do for you, because if they continue to do it, you get promoted and they lose the value that they're getting from you. Right? Like, yes. I'm not saying people are evil. It's a natural. I mean, hell, I had that like, shit, I don't want to give this guy, man, I'm not going to brag about him because I know they could use him on the other project and I need him on mine because, right? I'm hoarding. And so there's these just real natural human dynamics that make it such that managers are not incentivized, or rather there is a risk for them to advocate for you. So if I know that, and I'm expecting them or letting them be the only advocate for me, and I'm frustrated about how much people are investing in me and it's my fault, right? Like I gave the game, I put the scrub on the mound. I gave the ball to the scrub. I need to hold that ball for me, right? Like I can't expect other people to do that. And so simple, again, super, super simple, because I know a lot of people are very hesitant about posting and getting super engaged on social media. Simply posting your ideas, your perspective, your opinions, your thoughts, your contributions on social media, specifically LinkedIn, because it has a different tone to it, is a form of advocating for yourself.
It is.
Because now other people in the market, in the industry, etc., get an insight into how awesome you are. And yes, some people ain't going to like it. Good. But if you're expecting your supervisor and manager and that sort of thing to be your number one cheerleader, you're selling yourself short. What do you think, Jen?
100%. I want to tackle a couple of things that you said that I couldn't agree more with. But I think that one, like to expect that they see everything you do is just stupid. I mean, it's like, I mean, it's like if you're out there killing it, unless your boss is in your pocket, or unless your boss is on your shoulder, like a lot of times you're doing it and you feel it and you're in it and you're like, heck yeah, I did this and I'm blowing this up and I'm doing all this stuff. And yet in our minds, for whatever reason, like then they should know it and I should get acknowledged for it. And like, unless you're wearing a GoPro and you're, I mean, like literally, like how are they going to know?
Yep.
And so that doesn't mean like, look at me, look at me, look at me. I understand. And we've been trained that we don't want to, we don't want to be bragging. We don't want to be like, again, I understand. And that in this industry, it's like, well, that's what everybody does. Why should I highlight that? Why should I celebrate that? So that is where I've leaned in to help people understand that celebrating people is not the same as bragging about something. So helping people understand that, but also people don't know unless you show them.
Yes.
And that part, I think, again, it's like because this world is so like there's videos and AI and all these things everywhere. I think we just in our minds think, well, people should just know. And unless you make a concerted effort to whether it's an update or a A3 or a report or whatever it is you do, social media, I know that there are people now, even within my own firm, that I would never have had engagement with, that I am engaged with because of how they connected with me on LinkedIn. And they work in my own firm, but it's like our paths didn't cross, whether it's their geographic location, their role, but because of our connection on LinkedIn, my relationship now with them within my firm is bigger. And now I can shine a light on them, not just inside my firm, but outside my firm. I mean, it's like I just until you make those connections and until you advocate for yourself, then like people are not going to see it.
They can't.
No.
They can't.
So sorry,
Right.
I'm like on a soapbox, but like I know because I've lived it.
Yes.
And so I can speak to it just from my own personal experience. And it's not, I'm doing this so that everyone can see what I'm doing. I'm doing it because I'm doing some really cool things and no one would know if I didn't celebrate them.
Yes. And so to Sarah's point here, yes, how much more can I advocate for others if I advocate for myself?
That part.
Right? Like if it's uncomfortable and feels slimy and gooey and icky, that's why. Right? Like taking your foot off the brake.
But just so you know, like that, like what Sarah said, and probably I think that's one of my quotes that I said a while ago, but like, you know how I live, you know how I show up, and you know how important people are. I know how important people are for you. I know how you show up. But when we're advocating for ourselves, how much more are we able to do?
100%.
I mean, well, crazy.
And here's the thing, Amy, beautiful point here, right? The smoother things are going, the more likely your upline doesn't know the specifics of what you're doing. And this is everybody out there, y'all know this for sure, right? Who do we celebrate? The one that works 900 hours, the one that reschedules vacations, the one that's there on Sunday morning. Like those are the people that get the attention. Mm-hmm. And it's, again, I think it's just a natural bias. We're distracted by activity. Mm-hmm. But the person that is smoothing out operations, stabilizing situations, not in a panic and leaves it, we'll just say this, has boundaries. They're looked at as slackers because they're not in crisis mode, because they're not saving the day. And so this is a real thing that's in our industry, like in every damn industry. And so advocating for yourself, like it's a freaking skill we need to build. Now, I'm going to go.
Can I add just to that before you move on? So that quote from Amy. So I want to add to that. Like I presented, if you don't know Keon Zandi, he's CEO of Skiles Group, but I presented with him before, and he uses an example that I think is amazing. And I think it's what changed his mindset in this industry and how he's now been able to impact so much more in his role. But he said, as a superintendent, there was a job where he worked 75 days straight. And at the end of it, they got across the finish line, and and he got accolades, and they celebrated him at the company. I mean, just all these awards for getting across the finish line. And he's like, I'm not gonna be able to stay in this industry if this is how I'm going to work. So he had to, in his mind, change the way work went and how he was going to be able to survive. And he went in, made adjustments. The next project, everything was smooth. Everything was good. They hit every milestone, got across the finish line, didn't have to work weekends, like made the adjustments. And he goes, and nobody said a word. Mm-hmm. And it's not that he didn't do an amazing job the second time, and if not better, because he improved something. But that's our industry.
Yes. Yes.
It's whatever's on fire. That's where the attention goes. And if you're putting out the fire, you're the freaking rock star.
Yep. Yep. Beautiful, beautiful point. So now I want to bring up Ian's, and before I bring up Ian's, I want to shout out Miss Elizabeth. Good morning. She's back again. Glad to see you. And then, of course, our other sister, Miss Yesenia.
Yes.
Good morning. So Ian says, again, like the be humble and put your nose down and go do the work. I think I learned this from my father and teachers, sports coaches when I was a kid. It does tend to bother me when I see others hard selling themselves. People want things quicker and sooner now. I think you know where I stand on this. What do you think, Jen?
I do. No. I'm gonna let you go. What is your stance on this, Jesse?
So I think I'm completely on board with Ian. And I've been able to spend a lot of time with Ian, and he has been recognized and elevated. And again, because he has had access to great leaders that do that, which is not the norm. On the same note, nobody gets perfect attendance ribbons anymore. After you get out of high school and college, there's no more summer break. There's no more spring break. You're not going to get a damn graduation ceremony for every stupid thing you do. Right. And so it's and I want to be respectful, but I also want to hit some people with some, like when I say people, I'm talking about the younglings with some reality. So you showed up to work 1 year and you have opinions and you're vocal about it. Awesome. What the hell have you actually done? What have you contributed? And I'm not saying that you're inadequate. I'm saying
you're doing your job.
You're doing your job. Thank you. You're doing your job, right? And I'm saying that younglings, but also just in general, there are people that you know what? I'll make it more real for me. When I first decided, well, I shouldn't even say first, the last time the state of Texas motivated me to get sober again, just because I made the decision not to drink, I wanted people to forgive me and support me and, help me and appreciate me. From one day to the next, I hadn't proven shit. Actually, all the history that they have proves to them that I'm going to go screw shit up again. And so I had to create a body of work. I had to create evidence for people to see, to begin to trust me again, to begin to believe in me again. And there were some people that they never stopped. But my point is this: just because I did what I was supposed to do doesn't earn me any credit, right? And I find that kind of behavior, or that we'll say that type of self-advocacy, well, you should be honoring me and supporting me because I decided to get sober. No, stupid. You didn't decide to get sober. You just don't want to go to prison, right? Like that was the reality of it. And so in terms of what Ian was saying, I think there's a line there that we need to be aware of yes, we got to advocate for ourselves. But if you're doing the minimum, you're wasting your breath.
And if you're doing, more. And if you're doing it just to be looked at.
Yeah, look at me. Yep.
Like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm checking the boxes. I'm doing see, I'm not getting in trouble. I'm doing the thing. That's what you get paid for.
Right. That's the expectation. Woohoo. Yes. Now, like Craig says, if you're good at something, own it, then share it. And I think for me, that's the root, the real meaty stuff there is sharing it and contributing into the path of others. It's not bragging or boasting if you're good at it, if you're actually doing it, right? I think Bruce Lee, there's a quote of Bruce Lee where he's like, I'm not bragging. I'm just the best. And yeah.
But what better way to celebrate and get recognized for something you're great at is when you've figured something out and then you share it with other people so they can go and do really cool things. What better way to get recognized on that you've done something without you having to be at the top of the mountain is being able to go, because then I'm going to tell, and I probably overshare. I share everything that I've figured out, or things that I know have worked for me, or things that I haven't. Like, I try to give people every resource that I have so that they can go and do really cool things. But, and you know what that does? That keeps them talking about me in other places that I'm not even there.
Yes. Yes. So contributing into others' path, making those deposits, building or cultivating social currency, right? Like that's all connected. That's all connected here.
You got lots of comments, Jesse.
I know. And so we'll go to the comments, but I'm going to run the banner again. Folks, if you just jumped on here in about 15 minutes, we're going to do the raffle. So drop the word facilitation in the comments and you'll get a free seat at the next Cultivation Crew session. I know we have a lot of active members on the call right now. So go ahead and do it. If you win it, you can give it to somebody, give it to a colleague or a family member or whatever you want. You drop that in the comments and we'll be doing the button pushing here in a second. Yes. So I want to go, oh man, you know what? So Laura brings up a great point. Self-advocacy can look different in different places. And I think that's important, right? Professional versus personal family relationships. You have to identify how you show up in different settings. Your score can vary, so analyze closely. What do you think, Jen?
I feel like Laura wrote this for me, but anyway, no, 100%. And what I've learned is, like, and I'm not going to argue with her. I just feel like I've done a really good job of separating them. How I show up here versus how I show up here. And so I think there's times and places for that. But I also know that for me, it was the easy way out. It was easy for me to show up at work this way and be doing what I'm doing, and then show up at home and be this way because of my role, because of my, my responsibilities and things like that. But I also know by separating the two, I kept them isolated from each other. And so that was self-reflection for me. I'm still in the process of that part, work in progress, but I'm in the part of how do I blend them? How do I show the value of my family and their role and their support in me and what I'm able to do at work, but also how am I able to celebrate them and really bring them. And this platform has helped me do that, is to talk about them more, talk about my kids, stuff like that. Like, how do I blend them and own that and celebrate that? And that's part of who I am. And so for me, I think it starts that place, and you've got to understand that you show up differently. But then also for me, part of my growth and evolution is, okay, but they're both part of me. And if I show up one way and try to keep it compartmentalized, I'm bringing less of me to the table.
Oh man, I love it. I love it. So again, part of the reason, like, I want to have this conversation with the tribe is because my experience, what I've been through and what I see you where you're at, like, and I think everybody can have it. I just know how accessible it is, and the problem is in here. Mm-hmm. So why the hell would I want to advocate for myself? Why? And maybe let's give it a little more form. Why would I want to be more visible? Why would I what's the value of other people understanding what I think, what skills I have, what my thoughts are, etc.? That's it. That's at the simplest form. Advocating for myself is contributing to a conversation, right? Or saying, hey, wait, time out. Like, we're not saying boundaries. You got it. Like, yes, boundaries, and contribute to the conversation. Embrace the fact that you have experience and knowledge and a body of work that you can contribute to help somebody else have a better, easier experience. Like, it's these things of taking your foot off the brake and giving all of you, or rather more of you than you did before. The risk is this. For a long time, I gave all of me to my job. Right? And I know I'm not the only one. And and here's what happened. As I began putting myself out there, taking on new opportunities, advocating for myself in terms of sharing my thoughts, sharing my opinions, pointing out stinky stuff, celebrating, like all of those things, I stopped hiding under the armor and started wearing it to go out onto the battlefield. What started happening is my awareness of how much I could serve began expanding. And then I started doing more of it. Well, now people are probably sick of me. I'm all over the place now. And the venues and opportunities for me to serve and contribute into other people's lives continue to multiply. Let's go back 5 years. I was planning on retiring for the company I was working with at that time, and that wouldn't have been a bad deal. But I would not have been able to serve and contribute or share my gifts and talents the way I do now. And so why should we advocate for ourselves? Meaning, or maybe let's just go a layer into it, be more visible, allow more people to see our gifts and talents, because it helps me serve better. Right? Okay. So that's what's happened to me over the past 5 years. You and I, Jen, you shared the feedback I gave you last time. And one of the things we've talked about since then is it's not like you're going, I've got to go advocate the hell out of myself. It's just that you're taking your foot off the brakes. Can you give some context to that, please?
Sure. So I touched on this the last live stream, is that you and I had a conversation, and you were giving me some feedback because again, I got a lot going on, and you started it with this may sting a little anyway. So when Jesse says that before he gives you some feedback, it's going to be real. And I think in your feedback was, Jennifer, this is the way you've prioritized your life: self, work, family. And in my mind, for what we were talking about, immediately went to Jesse, I am not selfish. Like, I do not go out and brag about myself and I need everybody to recognize me. You're like, no. Self could also mean protection. And you're playing safe, and you're making sure that people only see certain pieces of you and parts of you, and like that's still self first, because sometimes it's self-preservation, and I understand, but it's also, I'm only going to let people see and do and whatever certain things. That's still putting me first instead of prioritizing other things. So that we got clear on that in that conversation, and in the conversation, the analogy was, it's easy to have all these ideas and all these things that I want to do or that I could do or that are on my plate. But when my foot is on the brake, it stops my progress and it stops the evolution of what I could be. And so me in that protective mode and protecting myself and protecting what people could think and what all those things, having me at the top of that list had my foot on the brakes. Because I was protecting that and doing all these other things, but I was still not letting myself progress. And by just, again, and you were so supportive. You said that, Jennifer, I'm not asking you to hit the gas and go full speed ahead. He goes, it's just taking that foot off the brake. And I recognized it, and you acknowledged it, but it's taking my foot off the brake is allowing myself to see opportunities, allowing myself to make progress that I couldn't do when I had my foot on the brake.
Thank you for that, Jen. Yes. And it's like this the self that I was referring to is like protecting your current state, your status quo, your personal situation. Steve Martin drops this. He says, the reason you're not satisfied with the level of appreciation once you're at the top of the mountain is because no one can see you. You left them in the valley, right? Gangsta. Craig brings, if you're a solo entrepreneur, amen, you need to advocate for yourself. Did you see that? Me too, brother. Me too. Learning how to do this is critical for your business and your state of mind. And I'm going to add on to that, right? Kind of like Steve's point there is, you don't have to have your own business, like your own LLC or whatever the hell, to start building the skill of advocating for yourself and letting people know. And it kind of starts with you, right? Like you and I, Jen. And when I say with you, I mean like personally, internally. you and I have had these conversations. You've taken the foot off the brake in your mind. The world still hasn't seen the impact that that's going to have.
No.
Right? Can you talk through that for our people?
Yes. I think, well, and it's steps, right? It's the steps of progress. And I think part of it is like the way that we advocate and the way that we look at ourselves and our role in things. I think for me, it's I can still go out and do all these things for other people and not focus on me. And it doesn't mean I'm not doing good things. And I think what this is allowing, I think what this conversation with you allowed me to see is, yes, Jennifer, and you can keep doing those things and you can keep going through the motions and you can keep, and people are going to see it. They're going to recognize it, whatever that is. But how much am I not doing that I could be doing that could impact so much more? And I think that it's like, if I'm satisfied, Jesse, then it doesn't matter what you tell me. If I'm satisfied right now that I'm okay and everything's good and I'm just going to keep on scroll, I mean, then it doesn't matter what you say. But if I'm not satisfied and I know there's something missing and I know there's a gap and I know there's more that I could be doing to impact more, to change lines, to transform organizations, like if there's more out there and I don't take my foot off the brake, nothing's going to happen.
Yes. Yes. And I want to double down on that. Like, I get asked this question a bunch about coaching people. They're like, well, how do you know? And how do you make sure you're not overstepping? And I'm like, oh, it's easy. The person tells me. Like, I promise you, if you give me zero indication that you want to have a new experience or do some self-discovery, we ain't going to talk about it because I know how hard it is. But if you let me know that you got a curiosity, that you want to explore, that you want to try something new, you better believe we're going to go there. And so the reason I'm saying that is I hope that people understand we're not saying that you need to do more and be more. And what we're saying is, if you're feeling a little, this kind of sucks. Why is it so hard? People aren't recognizing me. I'm not getting appreciated. If you're feeling that, you may benefit from advocating for yourself or starting to build that skill of advocating for yourself. And there's a lot of different forms of it, but kind of like Jen did, in your head, take your foot off the brakes first. So when I asked the tribe, are you keeping your foot on the brakes in terms of your personal growth? And when I think about personal growth, Craig said it earlier, I've always kind of been like a psycho about personal growth and leadership development and these sorts of things. Starting my business, if you want to like accelerate your self-awareness and personal growth, start a business, because I've learned so much about myself as a result of doing that. I don't read books anymore and say, oh, that's an interesting book. I like those concepts. I read a book and I need to go do that damn thing right now because nobody wants to see me table dancing. Well, not everybody wants to see me table dancing, but the point is there's a huge sense of urgency. And so I've been able to build that self-awareness. And so that's the point, right? If you're there and you're feeling discontent and a little icky and looking for something else, let's start thinking about self-advocating, taking your foot off the brakes. And so that's the question to the tribe. Are you keeping your foot on the brakes in terms of your growth, your visibility, your accessibility, your contributions, and so forth?
Okay, so Jesse, while they're responding or while we're waiting on them, I do have a couple of questions for you.
Come on.
So one, you just talked about your learning and your growth. And I think that what we're really good at, and you've helped me learn what to do and what not to do in this situation, it's we have a lot of people that have recommendations like, oh, you should read this, or oh, you should look at this, or oh, this could help you. And those are very vague. And so if you ever want to give Jesse a recommendation, or you want Jesse to read something, or you want Jesse to respond to something, like, you can't be vague. And not because he's dense, because he's not dense. It's because of where Jesse is and what he's doing, he needs to know the value of how it's going to impact him in his life and what he has next. And so, Jesse, can you talk about that a little bit? Just like when people are like, oh, this is a good book, or, oh, you should do this. And again, I'm guilty of it. So I'm going to own that. But like how does that play out in your mind?
Yeah. So in my head, it's a couple of things. And thank you for saying I'm not dense, but I think I'm dense. I just want to be clear, folks out there. We're gonna run the raffle right after I respond to this question. So if you want to be in the raffle, drop the word facilitation in the chat and you'll get put into it. So anyways, there's a few things. Like I don't know why. I think I have some idea why, but doesn't matter. I'm not good with like soft suggestions. I miss them, right? Because I'm hyper focused on things. And so I think it's because I'm hyper focused on stuff. If you don't make a direct ask or a direct command, I think you're just talking, right? Like I'm not going to fill in the gaps because I'm busy doing other things. And so there's that thing, and that's been an irritation for a lot of people in my life and I don't understand why. It's just like I don't do. I can't even come up with an example right now, but because you and I have had those conversations, like, oh, you wanted me to do something. I didn't get that out of the conversation. So there's that. And for me, that's probably why I'm as direct as I am, because I need it. And so I do it on purpose. So that's one bucket. The other bucket is this. If you're going to we'll just use books as an example. People recommend books all the time, right? And what I'm trying to figure out, is this something impactful? Is it something transformational? Is it something meaningful? Because I got a shitload of books on my list. And I'm very focused right now on honing my learning around marketing and branding and this sort of thing. And so people will recommend a book that has nothing to do with that. And so my brain is like, what the hell? Like, reject, like naturally. I'm like, nope, I'm not focused on that. This is what I'm focused on. I want to hear. But it could be there could be good stuff. Okay, good. So then my next question is like, okay, what did you get out of the book? And if the answer I get is, oh, it's a good book, like whatever. I got Deadpool comics, right? I'll rather read that shit because they're shorter. And another question I ask is, okay, what did you get out of applying what you read from that book? And usually the answer is crickets. And so for me, it's a filtering process of, no, I'm not going to spend 3 to 5 hours going after that book because the source kind of gave me weak sauce. How does that?
No, that's good, because then I think you hit on a point, and then I have a follow-up question. You hit on a point of, it's like when you recommend books to people, again, you're in the middle of it, you like it, this is what, like, go through a process in your brain. And if you haven't finished the book, if you haven't gotten all the way through the book, like, it's hard to motivate someone else to read something that you haven't even been able to get through, much less here's the cool, really big things I took from it. So that's just a suggestion. Jesse, before I know you're going to do the thing, but I want you to answer another question for me, because you talk about action and you talk about giving feedback and you talk about how you are very direct. Can you a little bit talk about, there's a lot of people that ask for feedback, or a lot of people that ask for advice. And what is how you continue to feed into their lives based on what they're doing?
Man, you're shining a light on all my jerkiness. I want to look at him. He says, yep, we had this conversation this past week about the book stuff. Love you, bro. I love you, man. Okay, so the question was, like, what's my thinking about?
What's your gauge when people, Jesse, you are very open. Come call me on my 2 hours while I'm out walking and running, and anybody in the world can reach out to you and go, Jesse, I need help. Jesse, talk to me through this. Here's my problem. Like, everybody in the world has access to you at any point that they want to have access to you. And yes. So what is your gauge on continuing to feed into people's lives based on what decisions they're making?
Yeah. Yeah, it's action, right? Like the best way to say that is it's action. And I'm not talking massive, enormous action. I'm just talking freaking some action. Mm-hmm. So if we have a conversation, I don't like having the same conversation. Mm-hmm. Like I don't. And I think there's a difference between seeking input, advice, insight, and seeking attention. So if you want to have a conversation and you're going to tell me about your ex, and then we talk again and you're still talking about your ex, I'm like, why the hell don't you just let them be like a full-fledged ex and cut them out of your life? I don't want to talk about, I'm not going to talk about this again. And so like this is ugly, but some people I think want accomplices and reassurance. I think we're human beings. So we need reassurance. We need support. We need affirmation. That's a healthy thing. But if all you want, if you want sympathy and affirmation, I'm not your guy. If we're going to talk about something, we're going to have a conversation. I'm not saying I know all the answers, but if you want to continue to like work through that thing, whatever it is, you got to take action. You have to have done something that has progressed you further on the situation that you're dealing with. And it can be small.
It can be very small. I'm going to attest to that.
It can be super small, but it's got to be it can be a decision. And then you're working through the decision, getting comfortable with the idea. And I, in the conversation, you can tell, okay, there's progression in terms of their thinking and understanding and self-awareness and blah, 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 right? But if we're having another call and you're exactly where we were the last time, oh, well, I got busy. Like, well, then what the hell why are we talking? Like the time that we're talking, you could be taking action. So for me, it's just that, like, take some damn action. If you're not going to take action, go talk to the mirror, go get a camera and talk to yourself. I ain't got time for that.
Well, and I asked that question, Jesse, because we're talking about advocacy and we're talking about how we advocate for ourselves. And so I think for me, that's important in my life, specifically because of the way you show up and the way that you require people to take action, it forces me to have to hold a mirror up. And if there's something on my plate or we've talked about something and I know it's important, because of the way you show up, it forces me to not to like, again, I won't, if I know there's something on my plate and Jesse's kind of called me on it, or I've said, okay, I'm going to do that. Like, I won't call him. I won't get on the phone with him until I know I've checked it off, because of just the accountability piece. And it's not Jesse going, I'm not going to talk to you if you haven't done what I've asked. It's because he's helping me advocate for myself. And so my, we're talking about self-advocacy, but how much of what you do encourages people, advocates for people, encourages them to advocate for themselves, or you just continue to feed into their attention needing. You continue to feed in to their complaining or their whatever, and you're doing nothing to help them take action.
Yes. I was thinking about this the other day, and trying to kind of describe why I like coaching and having those conversations and stuff. It's like I get the opportunity to sell you to you. I get the opportunity to show you your future self and make you decide I'm going to go buy that and be that person.
That's freaking awesome.
Right. And so in terms of self-advocacy, getting a coach, having a conversation. Stephanie Reichman, she and I had a conversation. I just interviewed her on the Learnings and Missteps podcast. Nice. But we had a conversation before that. I can't remember what triggered it, but it was awesome. Like I had a lot of fun. She felt great about it. She sent me a beautiful message about the conversation helped her feel good and kind of get clear about things. So reaching out to somebody and saying, hey, I'm stuck on something. Can you help me with this? I think that's self-advocacy, right? You're taking steps to mend, heal, and grow yourself. That counts. Sharing your thoughts and ideas, all of that counts. And you're freaking worth it, man. Like that's it. So I got to do the damn thing.
Yeah, do it.
All right, so we're doing the randomizer giveaway.
Yes, so we have 3 people that have written facilitation in the comments. So what do we got? What do we got?
The winner is Sarah.
So she had to jump off, I think. So we'll have to let her know.
Yeah, I'll let her know. I'll hit her up. I'll owe her another email anyway. So Sarah, you won it. Folks, if y'all know Sarah, she's already an active member of the cultivation crew. So that means she's got a little gift. You can hit her up, talk her into sharing her little prize there with you guys. Boom. That was awesome. Okay. So we got 5 minutes, Jen. There was Steve made a great comment that I want to bring up, but I lost it. We didn't even get to like the top scores.
No, and we also have people that have responded on that their foot is on the brakes.
Oh, okay, let's see what we got here.
Yes.
Nope, I don't have that. Oh, guilt. So where is it? Greg says he's guilty, right, of having his foot on the brake. Amy definitely had her foot on the brake, like she needs no new rotors. Oh, I love it. I love it. Some honesty there. Angel says, that's why we're friends, Jesse. I don't have patience for complaining with inaction. 10-4. You don't like the thing, do the damn work to change the damn thing. Yes, ma'am. Steve Martin says, are you keeping your foot on the brakes? Yes, and it's complicated. As a mediator or facilitator, I will always place success of the team over benefits for me. I'm hearing martyrdom there. I can advocate for myself internally when everyone wins. I don't know.
I'm going to speak to this because all of that fits everything that I justified in my brain, like until I had to make the decision to take my foot off the brake. So I'm going to use the analogy. When you take your foot off the brake, you're just in neutral. Like it doesn't mean all of a sudden that I'm hitting the gas pedal going in a different direction. It doesn't mean that I'm going so fast I'm leaving people behind. It just means I'm in neutral. And that again, that's a space. That's a space that doesn't mean I'm going backwards, doesn't mean that I'm keeping myself from going forward, and it doesn't mean I'm going so fast that no one can catch me. And so neutral is a space that like we can be in and still impact other people, still give ourselves time and space to be able to self-advocate. Like, and again, Steve, I'm saying this only because I am living this in my world right now. It's just having my foot off the brakes and allowing myself to be in this neutral space. Like the car can still move in neutral. Yes. So like that, like I agree. And like, it doesn't mean that we're making choices to do one thing or another by taking our foot off the brakes.
Yes. So we got 3 minutes, Jen. You got any 5 bangers to hit the people with? Because I forgot to put the links everywhere else.
So if you don't know what that is, you need to join our Emotional Bungee Jumpers group, because we get challenges every month. And every month we have challenges where we get to reach out to people and ask them questions and really create connection and really get insight into things that are in our lives. But we also have a question that we've asked the group on: what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? And I'm not going to share 5 bangers, but I do want to let them know what mine is so that people can watch and see when I share things and do things that feed into that. So what would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? Is I would let go of the control I think I need in my life, of everything, of people, of money, of everything that I need to control. That is if I knew I couldn't fail, I would let go. And I suck at that. And I'm working on doing better at that. And so maybe if you know that, then you can see when I post things or when Jesse and I talk about things, it is me trying to lean into letting go of some of the control that I have had most of my life. What about you, Jess?
Yeah, I love it. Look, Sarah, she's at the nail salon with her daughter, and she saw that she's already got somebody picked, y'all. So y'all might have to bribe her to give her winning.
I have one that because I was a winner last month, that I still have one to gift to somebody.
Oh yeah, you were a winner from the monthly challenge from the jumper. So
yes, so if anybody wants to join just to listen in and see what it is, reach out to me and let me know.
Yes, awesome. So are we still doing the after party?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We have an after party. I posted the links in the different things. Y'all want to continue? Actually, what I would love is for y'all to come in so we can hear you. We're not going to see your face. We're not going to see you topless, because I'm going to be topless, I promise. We just hear your voice. And so you can jump on the after party so that we want to get your perspective, your takeaways, what could have been better, all of the things, what offended you, what did you love? We want to hear that. So hit the link, join us at the after party, and we'll see y'all in 5 minutes. Starts in 5 minutes.
Yes. Thank y'all very much.
Woo!